After 20 years of building together through dust, deadlines, and damn good ideas, Pace and Adam invite you to join them for honest conversations about the home building world. Welcome to Build Connected, where experience meets insight, powered by Diamond Home Restoration.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Build Connected. I am Pace.
And I'm Adam.
Episode 64. Still on vacation in Maine. Loving every minute.
Still on vacation. Man, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that.
You know what? It doesn't happen nearly enough. I am 100% enjoying it. There are no, what's the word? Regrets? No regrets on my end.
You know, I promote your vacation time. I know I take more vacation days than you. So whenever you can squeak something in, I'm happy for you.
Listen, as a contractor, most contractors don't have the luxury of taking a vacation. Like a lot of guys, when you're a one-man show, you work right through the year. When you take a break, business stops, for a lot of guys. The best thing that you and I have is each other's backs, right? We have the ability to take this time. And I got to be honest, you get to a point in the year, sometimes you're just burnt, and you need a break to just come back refreshed, maybe throw the bags on in your case, right? And yeah, sometimes you just need a break, and man, it feels good.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. Enjoy it. And yeah, more vacations to come for you, Pace.
Yeah. There's always
Um,
Christmas.
be here before we know it.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into it. Let's talk about some stuff that we like, some products that we like to use. Specifically, we're going to talk about kind of trim board details. I think more exterior related trim boards. But look, in our line of work, we see a lot of caulked joints. We've used a lot of caulking over the years, and it's a product that has a lifespan like anything. And, when it breaks down, it gets ugly, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to redo caulking, right? You got to peel it out, reseal it, that sort of thing. So anytime that we do construction and finish work on the exterior of a house, if we can avoid caulking any joints and allow for movement, we want to capitalize on that. It helps with longevity. It's less maintenance on the house. And, these are important things to homeowners, and it's important to us. So, we've encountered some great products over the years. Um, I will specify a couple, even though, Pace, you told me not to mention specific products, but I'm going to
You
talk
don't
about them
listen.
because I like them. AZEK makes some great trim products, and we've used them in the past. Specifically like corner boards that have a rabbited kind of notch in it that allows us to recess a siding board into that groove. And in a situation like that, you don't have any caulk. You allow for movement back side to side, up and down, and that seam is covered by that rabbited joint that's provided. And they offer the same thing for window and door casings. That rabbited detail. It's a wonderful thing. I know that Tamlin makes some different a wide variety of products that kind of accomplish something similar that you can attain with. I think you can use their stuff with other types of products. The AZEK stuff tends to work better when you're using AZEK siding along with their trim boards, but depending on what the depth is of their rabbited groove, there are certain other siding products that I think you could probably work with that. So anyway, these are great things to look for when you're starting getting into your siding projects, or maybe you're doing new windows and doors and you're going to have to do some casing work. It's important to think about this stuff. Limit the maintenance, avoid caulking if you can, and look for some of these products. And we've even found ourselves making our own custom stuff, right? Maybe it's a 2x6 that we cut a rabbet out just to create that overlap. So anyway,
I think this stuff is amazing, especially as we migrate to more dynamic claddings, right? You talked about AZEK. We use their siding, quite a bit. There's movement in it, right? It expands and contracts. And so having that rabbited pocket to allow for movement, but not show any gaps. I mean, it's it's how you got to do it, right? Like we use a lot of Hardy too, and I hate caulking on Hardy. Like I mentioned, I think last week, I fought this on two houses. I any anytime we can avoid caulking, I want to, and having that little channel, that little pocket, man, it solves a number of things, right? We're dealing with our primary air and water really deep in at the sheathing level. We're doing drainage outboard of that, and oftentimes if we're doing insulation, we might have another air barrier outboard of that. But this just allows a nice clean finish without relying on that product that's got a lifetime, like you said.
Yeah, and I mean, look, products are evolving so quickly, right? Like every year there's something new. We named a couple, but I mean, there's so many other great products out there when it comes to siding and interconnecting with trim boards and that sort of thing. I mean, there's like metal siding now, and I mean, it's been around for a while, but there's all kinds of new innovations with this stuff. So do some research, see what's out there, avoid caulk if you can.
Yeah, for sure. Today I'm going to talk about something controversial, whatever. Bad clients. Let's just jump right in. Like, how many times would you say a week we get a call from somebody? Let's go with maybe two categories: clients that aren't a fit for us, and then just bad clients. Like, how many calls do we get a week where we're fielding that sort of a call?
Yeah, it happens so much, and look, there's a lot of nice people out there that, they don't really know what questions to ask, and others do, and, sometimes it's just like, "Why are these people wasting our time?" And it gets really, really frustrating, and you know right off the bat they're not a good fit, but you wanna be polite over the phone and shut it down, right? I mean, when we first started in this business, like you're kind of excited and antsy and you want to get jobs, and you're kind of taking you're diving in deep with clients that may be a good fit, not a good fit. You're wasting time doing bids and this and that, but man, we've been doing this for a long time now, and I don't want to waste my time with a bad client.
No. And when you're young, you can't trust your gut yet. You haven't wasted enough time to know that your gut is right. Right? There's some percentage of people that are just kicking tires, and that's all they're ever going to do. They want you to go through some exercises, give some prices, right? They have no intention of using you. They've heard that you do good work, right? So they want to know what you cost, but they've got a
That
cheap guy.
That's it. I mean, you just said it. Like I was going to say, give me an example of someone that's a bad client, right? I mean, someone that calls you and says, "Can you come out and give me a price?" Oh my God. That's like, hang up the phone. you
Yeah,
know,
because this is the old race to the bottom, right? They have a cheaper contractor that they're going to use. Yeah, they can feel good that they didn't pay our crazy prices, right? They don't talk about like philosophy. They don't talk about how we're going to do things, right? And like why we build the way we do. They're just looking at a number. And
Yeah.
that's a bad fit for us, right? That's not what we're about. We don't want to be the cheapest guys out there, right? We want to build quality high performance homes.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, it's taken us time to develop our systems, right? And, we've talked on this podcast a lot about our pre-construction process. And, it means so much to you and I, just in how it's helpful and beneficial for the client. But I mean, that is just it's such a easy conversation to have with somebody, and it basically shuts them down if they're just kicking tires, right? Because we do have a fee for our pre-construction process, and you either see the light or you don't, right? I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Most people that we talk to get it, and even if they don't want to spend the money, they still understand how the process makes sense. But it's a good way to kind of siphon through those people,
Well, I mean, listen, we're not done here because we don't get a chance to talk about this that much. So let's go a little bit further, can we? I'm going to
Oh,
give you a
please.
couple more types of bad clients. If you walk in for an initial meeting and the couple, the family that you're talking to, can't talk to each other, right? They're fighting. They can't communicate together. How are they going to communicate with you? I mean, about the number of jobs, some we've actually done, completed, where it was just, it was, can I just say kind of a broken marriage, right? There was so much tension in the household. Like, how can you have a successful home remodel project when there's just tension in the house? It's very awkward.
Yeah. Oh, we've had a few of those. I mean, we've had everything from like the tension in the air and the dysfunctional marriage to almost like a comedy skit, right? I mean, where the job is going great, and but just watching these two people interact is just like mind blowing. But yeah, you're right. If the couple that you work for can't communicate with each other, it makes it challenging, no doubt.
Yeah, and another one that comes to mind for me is a homeowner that doesn't really know what they want, right? They can't specify what they're trying to accomplish. They know they're doing something. It might have started because they hate their windows or they don't like the color of the house. But when you really, when things morph into a larger project, you need to be able to prioritize things. You need to know kind of what your one, two, three items are so that you can, if you need to scale back, you can understand like the things that are most important to you. You need to know why you want it. And this actually ties into something that we say, I feel, at every initial meeting. You really should spend some time in your house before you do a remodel, right? You should listen, there's some houses you buy that have to be remodeled to move in, but once you live in a house, you can learn things about it, right? You start to understand what you can live with and what you need to change. And I think that's an important step. I think the more time you give it, I think the better success you have in a remodel.
Yeah, I think we shock a lot of people because you and I do a lot of walkthroughs with people that have just purchased a home, and they're excited, right? They want to start tearing down walls and going crazy, and in their mind they're ready to get going. And then you start digging in and asking the questions, and then there's some uncertainty about what should go where and this and that. And when we give them that advice of, hey, you need to live in the house for a year, they're kind of taken back in a way, right? Because they're like, whoa, whoa, we were ready to roll, but as you kind of have that discussion and dig deeper and tell them to slow down a little bit, things start to make sense in that world of just, hey, let's see how the space works for us, because our whole idea that we have now is definitely going to change down the road. So that's good advice for anybody that's buying a house. Definitely wait, live in the house for a year. If you need to tweak a few things while you're there, do it. But like a real remodel, you want to just wait on that and live in that place for sure.
I think so. I mean, I know um, I haven't been guilty of it. I never have jumped right in off the bat. But I know that every month that goes by, I learn more about the house and what I think I need, right? My initial vision, maybe when I walked through and bought the house, was one thing, but after a little bit of time, that typically starts to change. All right, the last one I'm going to kind of hammer on is for and I'm venting as a contractor. That client that's really cagey, right? When you start talking about budget, they won't answer your questions about money. When you talk about timing,
Oh, I hate that.
yeah, you'll get your second. But when you go and you start asking about, well, when do you need the project done by? Like, is there an event coming up that it has to be done by? Um, when you just start asking questions about time, money, even quality, quite frankly, and they play everything close to the vest, right? Because they've been taught by telling you a number, all of a sudden we're going to change our pricing and we're just going to hit that number, right? That's the perception out there. And it's so far from the truth. Like, if somebody lowballs, our number is going to be our number. If somebody gives a ginormous number, our number is still our number, right? We we take a lot of pride, I think, in our estimating, right? And that the system that goes into it. And so like the thought of us just like coming up with a number based on what someone's answer was is so silly to me.
Well, these are people that just don't have trust, right? They were taught, a certain way. And
Yeah.
I got to say, my favorite thing to do when we go to a meeting is like one of my first questions is like, "What's your budget?" And like most times, actually, people are really honest, like surprisingly honest. I think I kind of grew up, with my parents maybe kind of having that mentality, keeping that stuff close to the vest. But in this line of work and what you and I do, like, that trust is so important. And what you just said is so true. Like our number is the number. And if you keep that close to the vest, like we can't help you, right? Like, and you're wasting our time too. Because if it's $100,000 project and your number's 50 grand, like I want to be upfront with you that we're not a fit. And, if your number's 120 grand and the project's 100 grand, then I want to be upfront with you saying, we can accomplish that no problem, probably a little bit less. So it's fun to watch some people squirm a little bit when you ask them that question, and that it is a telltale sign of maybe this person isn't a great fit.
Yeah, one thing I just thought of when you were saying that is we do always ask, the what's your budget question, but here the Steve Basic question, what number scares you? That's a really
Yeah,
good question too, because they're very different, right? Like if I walk into, well, let's say like an electronics store and I'm looking at TVs, I look up at the wall and I'm like, yeah, that one looks good. And I look down at the price and it's 35 grand. I walk away from that TV. It doesn't matter how good it looks. I'm not buying a 35 grand TV. But if I look at one and it's 2,500 and I went in thinking I was going to spend two, right? I'm like, man, that does look good. I can probably wrestle my brain into $2,500, right? They're two very different questions. What's your budget and what's your number that scares you?
yeah. And if you're that client out there that's, talking to contractors, be honest with them, right? I mean, you're going to eventually hire someone that you trust. If you give a false number because you think they're going to come in higher or lower, like that doesn't do anybody any good. So be a good client, be honest with your contractor, tell them what your budget is, have a discussion about it. Like that is the key ingredient to our pre-construction process, right? We want to talk about budget up front. We want to talk about what's involved and what we need to do to hit that budget. If we're over, what can we do to come down and vice versa.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. All right, let's move into something interesting on a project.
Yeah, this is a topic that is very common. I probably everywhere. I mean, maybe more so kind of here in the Bay Area because houses are so close together, but it's property lines, right? You share a fence with your neighbor and it's time to rebuild the fence. Okay, the fence is down, and then before you build it, I think the fence should be 2 feet over on your property, Joey. What do you think about that? And it turns into this whole thing, right? So I'm actually, you and I we're seeing this taking place on two projects right now. And the best advice that we can give is the only thing that is really going to confirm any of this is to have a site survey. That's the only way to really answer the question. And site surveys can be expensive. But if you're looking for a simple basic site survey, maybe not as expensive. And I think if you do that, it basically puts everybody on an even playing field and everybody knows where the property lines are. And if you don't want to spend the money on that, then you just have to have a nice talk with your neighbor and come to an agreement, right? And so I guess that's the gist of that story. Get that site survey if you're uncertain.
This one is so interesting to me because I've gone through a couple of really challenging situations. A couple of houses ago, the first day we moved in, I had a neighbor knock on my door and like didn't even introduce herself. She was just like, cut down that tree and like left. And like I lived there for 8 or 9 years. And because of that day, I never talked to that person again. And I just, when I looked in that direction, I was just full of angst, you know? Um, it's funny how things happen, right? Over the years, things get rebuilt. They shift it a few inches this way, maybe a foot that way. And, ownership changes and lines get accepted, or fences are assumed to be lines, and they just get accepted. And, over decades and even generations, it can just sort of expand, exaggerate. And it can be a nightmare. So, I mean, like in our area in California, we're usually paying a few grand for a survey. But compare that number. I know that number sounds high in a lot of the country, but compare that to a lawsuit with a neighbor, right? Maybe having to remove like an accessory building or even a
Mm,
long fence, right? Like that adds up. So that $3,000, say, for your survey, man, it can really save you in the long run. And there's certainty. And, it's easier to have a good relationship with a neighbor when everybody knows what's going on.
yeah. Yep.
That's
Well,
a good topic right there.
yeah, it's a dicey one.
It's a dicey one. Even weirder, and I'm going to give one more. Easements. Like, so when you've got like, same house, I had an easement from the city that they actually gave up. They stopped maintenance and ownership of it. It was a very strange thing that I've never heard of. And so it became a free for all for there was, um, two different neighbors on either side, and everybody kind of fought over that new land they thought they just got as a free gift. Anyway, surveys, they're important.
Yeah, make it happen. Get your site survey. Fork over a little bit of dough, and then you know. Fork
Then you
over the
know.
dough, then you know. Okay.
All right.
We'll pace another good episode. Thanks for taking the time out of your relaxing vacation at your cabin there in Maine. And until next time, I am Adam.
And on pace.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us on Build Connected. For more stories, insights, and ideas, visit diamondhomerestoration.com or find us on Instagram and LinkedIn. We'll be back next week. We hope you will too.